Hey everybody, this is WRAL's Hidden Historian, Heather Leah, and today I am at an NC Forest Service fire tower from the 1930s. Now, you wouldn't typically expect to find a fire tower in the middle of the Raleigh suburbs, but I'm here in just a regular Raleigh neighborhood. Usually these are the types of fire towers you would see in the mountains, where there's heavy amounts of forests and fields and places where wildfires could be seen. Not really, a couple miles from Crabtree Valley Mall. But I wanted to go ahead and show you what I'm looking at. I'd gotten an email, so man, if you ever have something cool you want me to explore the history of, let me know. Because someone emailed me about this, and it turned out I've driven past this thing like many times. But when you're driving past it, all you really see is this. And so I didn't really realize what I was looking at. And I came out here and realized, oh, if you look up, you'll actually see the fire tower up there. And I'm going to back up a little to try and give us a better view of it. But take a look at that. We're really just in a Raleigh neighborhood. You can hear cars driving by, people getting home from work. This little house looks just like a regular house, right? But that's actually where the person who operated this tower used to live. And the person I interviewed, that would have just been Grandma's house. I interviewed a woman named Wendy Roberts. Her grandmother used to work here, and she worked here from the 1950s, I believe, all the way through the time that the tower kind of went out of commission in the 80s. So, and she actually worked for the service for about 45 years in total. And because she worked there, she was able to live there. So this was just Grandma's house. And the woman that I spoke with actually told me about childhood memories. I'm going to back up and see if I can give you a better view of the tower from a little further away. You can see we're just in a neighborhood, right? There's cars going by. There's a house over there. Again, I've driven past this tower several times and never even realized what I was passing. I'm going to try to get across the road so you can get a good view of this tower. Because it looks really cool. There are pictures on the story, and the link to the story is on WRAL.com, and then also I put it in this post here. All right, I'm going to give you a better view. You applied for a job for one of these? What year was that, Deborah? I'd love to hear about it. So you can see it up there. Let's see, I'm going to try to get a better zoom in. There we go. Look at that. So this thing is like 120 feet in the air. Back away from the road a little bit. And look at all those stairs. The woman who used to climb this every day, her name was Jenny, and she would climb this every day. And it's like 182 stairs, I believe. And it's way above the tree line. You can see, let's see, there's trees right there. And this is way up above that. As far as I know, the old instruments are still up there in the tower, kind of frozen in time. Climb it. I'm not certain that it would be the safest thing for me to just start climbing this tower. I do know that they've removed the bottom rung of steps there so that people cannot just come climb the tower. Please don't come climb the tower. It is not necessarily safe. But as far as views, I have been told that you can see smoke for up to 25 miles up there. I've also been told that you can see downtown Raleigh from the top of this tower, and also Sharon Harris. And then there are several other towers in Johnston County, as well as Knightdale used to have a tower. There is still a fire tower. I'm not certain if you can visit it or not. I'm going to try to find out. On Occoneechee Mountain, out towards Hillsboro. So, and then out in the mountains, there's quite a few of these as well. But this one is really extra cool because it's right here in a Raleigh neighborhood. Again, you can literally just see regular houses. So of course that begs the question, why in the world is there a 1930s fire tower? Thank you, Lolly. Why is there a 1930s fire tower in the middle of a neighborhood? Why is this out here? Well, like I said, we're not even that far from Crabtree Mall, but decades ago, when this tower was first moved here, yes, some people used to actually go by this tower who might remember it being on Six Forks Road. It was actually moved to this location, I believe in the 60s. Take a look from this angle. Really cool looking. But when this tower was first constructed in the 1930s and then moved out here to this area, and this is the Bayleaf Fire Tower, and moved here in the 60s, this was not the same Raleigh. This view was very different. You would have really just had Grandma's house right here, and that is where the operator lived. And again, I spoke to a woman who remembers coming here for Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas dinners. And if you would have this as your childhood fort, imagine the kind of childhood she had playing on this with her cousins. She said they would climb to the top and drop down banana peels as kids, and then they would see how brown the peels were by the time they got to the ground. So she has a lot of fond memories of actually playing up here as a kid. And then the house actually looks pretty much the same inside. I was able to go inside and tour the house with her during the interview. I did find it interesting that back in the 1950s and even the 40s and the 60s, and when these were in use, so obviously this wasn't really a neighborhood back then. This was fields, it was farms, tobacco fields. So you actually did have to worry about maybe running into a fire, and she did see several fires from up here. That these towers were primarily operated by women, which I just found fascinating, that back in the 1950s, these women were just sitting up here. She was 22 years old when she first started working here and protecting the area from forest fires. 22 years old working up here. And according to articles about her, the woman who managed this tower was pretty well known back in her time when she worked here. She worked here for decades. And she lived right here. That she started at 22, and she was basically partnered up with her husband. And so she would look. We're going to go under the fire tower. I do have permission to be out here. Otherwise, please don't come out here. It says danger, do not enter. So, don't come out here by yourself. That she would basically sit up here and look for smoke. And then she would tell her husband and send him out to go and actually fight the fires. We're underneath the tower now. Can you even imagine climbing that every day? Well, she worked here until... Gosh, she worked here 45 years. So let me think. If she was 22 when she started, I mean, if you can imagine being in your 60s and climbing up all of these stairs and coming down every single day, that's what she was doing for most of her life. And you can see here, this is actually a memorial to her husband. So he passed away, it looks like 1971. G.E. Buck Tilley, and her name was Jenny Tilley. And she teamed up with him. She started working here because he worked here. But then even after he passed away, and imagine working as a husband-wife team, she would send him out to stop the fires that she would see from up there. But even after he passed away, she kept working here. She kept protecting people of Wake County from fires. Now, a big reason that this was in service back then, according to, I spoke with one of the, the rangers, one of the members of the Forest Service out here, and he told me that back then, we're just going to take a look from different angles, he told me that back then, there's her house, fires were obviously much more of a concern in this area because you didn't have a house every few hundred yards. One house might be every 5 to 10 miles. And so a fire could start burning and not get spotted right away. And then you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have easy ways to let people know that there was a fire. So even if you saw one, how would you let someone know quickly? And the way it worked was, again, mostly women, were up in these towers, and if they spotted smoke, let's say that the woman up here spotted smoke, she would radio to another tower, possibly the one in Nightdale or one in Garner. There was one also out towards Hillsborough and out towards Durham, and she would radio them, and she had a little map, and she would say, I think I see smoke. Then they would look, and together they would triangulate where the smoke was coming from, and then they would send maybe only one person to start with out there to see if there was a fire, and then from there, if the fire was very severe, to call more people in to help with the fire. But as cell phones came into popularity, or even just regular telephones, and there became more and more firefighters in the area, it just became less and less necessary to use these towers. Now, if you are interested in the history of this tower, the story is on WRAL.com, and I will tell you, it's really interesting to read the story of this woman. And she worked here from age 22 years old. So she was out here for most of her life, a huge portion of her life, protecting Wake County from fires and living in this house right over here. We do have pictures of her and her family in the story, as well as more pictures of the tower itself, more close-ups and things like that. So looks like someone down at the station has put a link to the story also in the comments and pinned it so you can see it there too. Thank you for taking a look at this tower. It was built in the 1930s and it's still here. Really just kind of a relic pointing to a very, very different Raleigh than is out here today. So thanks for checking it out with me, and I'll see you next time for more hidden history. Thanks everyone. Bye.